For those of you who haven't been here before, all of you folks, it is our practice to take each appeal in order. We'll ask you about the appeal in case there's something additional that you can add to it. All testimony is taken under oath or affirmation because this is a quasi-judicial hearing.
Did you read this?
And win, lose, or draw, we cash in our chips at 11 o'clock. Yeah, really, okay. We're working on 7:30, okay?
I've been here like a few years now. You could probably leave that part out.
Yeah, there were times we used to have 5 or 6 appeals. in one
Really?
night. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It was like, oh, God.
In the old days.
Yeah. And after we take the public input, we then move on to the next appeal and do the same thing, and then we go into executive session and we decide, and we discuss each appeal. You'll have a decision tonight, you know. I mean, it's not. Yeah. Okay. Did you do the minutes last month?
No, I wasn't here.
Okay. Did anybody do minutes? Do we have any minutes? We don't have any minutes.
Oh, wait, I don't know.
Oh,
I
well.
didn't see minutes.
Okay. Okay, so the one appeal we have tonight is an area variance for Don Shortell, appeal number 1060. The applicant is seeking an area variance for a 10 by 24-foot shed to be placed in front of the principal building. And of course, she did write this down, didn't she? All right, I'm going to play it and say zoning regulations prohibit any buildings in front of the main residence. That being said, would you care to come up and just tell us about this, basically? Okay. You gotta do, you can stand there, you can come up here, whatever you wanna do. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much. Okay, fire away.
Okay, so we are located about 200 feet back from the main road, and our driveway is very long, and the property is very irregularly shaped. So there's also a lot of wetlands around our property, which we love because we get the wildlife and we like it that way. So the ability to put the shed behind the property where it's very small and very hilly is not doable. So because of the shape of the property, the shed would actually be placed to the left of the primary residence. However, the front would be slightly in front of the primary residence, but it is in a separate area and would not impede any safety or visual problem.
Anyone have any questions?
I have no questions. Well, I only have one.
Okay.
Do you have a variance for the pool?
We actually had the pool installers do the permit for that, so.
So you did, yeah.
That wasn't, you have a permit? Do you have a CO for the pool?
The installers did it, I wasn't really,
Oh, so.
yeah. But,
We did because we had to actually put it over part of our leach fields.
Yeah.
So we did get permission from the town to do
yeah,
that.
besides this meeting's about the shed anyway, but
Yeah.
I'm confused by that, because I don't remember what we did, how
It
we
was
did it. but-
So
8 years ago.
the septic system is in the front of the house,
Yes,
and then on the side is the well?
the well's in the back,
In the
Well,
back?
in the back, yes.
which is, and there's a culvert back there also for drainage, which is, part of it's exposed on either end, and then there's the culvert underneath the ground.
I hate to do this out of order, but I was neglectful in the beginning, and along with the application for the variance, we have certified mail receipts for mail sent to all the local, the contiguous landowners. And we also have an affidavit of publication from the Southern Dutchess News, Northern Dutchess News, that this application has been noted in the news. And I see nothing from the Fire Advisory Board, so I shall assume that they did not need to do anything on that. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I had to get that in because that's legal.
Sure.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Is the other shed staying there, or is that coming down?
That is staying.
It's staying,
We just outgrew it.
And how high is the shed gonna be?
It's a one-story shed. It's a peaked roof, so I don't really know actually, there should be the sales
okay. But which one?
part in there somewhere.
High. I have no more.
Somebody ask some questions because I have to fill this form out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I make the big bucks.
It's in there, 6 feet.
6 foot 6 inches. There it is. Nice shed. Okay.
I don't see the county website showing any wetlands at all on the property. Are there
We
federal?
did bring the
DEC?
big version of the property map.
Oh,
And
okay.
you have to go into one of the other, another link that's in that property. I'll show you this if you wish.
As long as you're doing it, can I just, you
I
give it
swear.
the other hand?
I'm a lefty, so
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I thank you, sir. Go right ahead.
I think we might need this at the bottom of it. So, this property, this odd shaped, is mine, that's my house. And this is the wetlands over here, there's a detention basin there. The culvert runs in the back of my property. And you can see there's a stream, basically, that's made from that culvert. Basically, everything around the property gets wet over this way also. So really, that little section that we're picking is the only dry, elevate, or flattish kind of property.
Quite a few animals coming down from mine and crossing that property.
Is that identified as wetlands?
Yes, it
In the
is. I
map?
think it was, I don't know the difference between the federal versus county.
They pretty much are the same.
It's one of those that shows up on one of those sub-maps if you go into the Dutchess County website.
I think it's when you originally had intended to do
That's
the house.
interesting.
Subdivided, put a house there, it's
It's funny that it doesn't show on their, on the website, though. But I wonder why.
How many feet from the property line is that shed gonna be?
Front property line?
Side?
Side. So the one side is probably a couple hundred feet. The other side is the same thing. The front is about 150 feet. The back wall that we have, the closest part is about 60 feet. So there's lots of property around the whole area.
have any questions? Is there anyone here that has not been to the site?
I wasn't at the site, I just did it from the aerial, wasn't able
Okay.
to get there.
So,
Okay,
oh, see,
No, it's just that
was when they were gonna try to
due
subdivide.
to the, well, you can see on the plot plan that the shed is going to be
Wetlands here.
quite a ways back from the road. It isn't going to be, like, right there in your face. Yeah. Okay,
It's funny, they drew the map up.
anyone have any other questions?
Proposed sites.
I don't know, they're talking.
Okay.
Okay. See you in a minute.
Any other questions? Okay. Then I will close the public portion of the
Well,
hearing.
there's another person here, that person may,
That's Suzanne. Did you have,
oh,
you're just here, your TV's broken down, huh? That's what I say,
just make
that's what I say to
sure.
Steve. I'm sorry, no, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you. You have nothing, nothing to say about that, all right. Okay. All right, therefore, comma. Here comes the exciting part. Okay, this is a resolution for an area variance. An area variance results in a modification of physical restrictions so that an allowable use may be established on the property, i.e. yard requirements, setback lines, lot coverage, frontage requirements, or density regulations, so that the property may be utilized for one of the uses permitted by the zoning ordinance. Whereas the applicant, Don Shortell, has submitted proof of his application for a shed in front of the home, the main residence, which under the Code of Pleasant Valley requires the issuance of a variance, and whereas such proof has been duly considered by the board at a public hearing, and whereas an area variance is a request for relief from dimensional standards contained in the zoning ordinance, and it requires a demonstration of practical difficulty, and whereas relief may be granted if the applicant can demonstrate that strict compliance with the zoning chapter would cause practical difficulty, and whereas the determination of practical difficulty is a three-step process in which, number one, the applicant must demonstrate that the application of the zoning ordinance to his property causes significant economic injury. Two, once the applicant has demonstrated economic injury, it must be shown that the regulation in question is reasonable, related to a legitimate exercise of the police power. And assuming the regulation in question is reasonably related to the legitimate exercise of the police power, the applicant must demonstrate that the restrictions as strictly applied to his case are unrelated to the public health, safety, or welfare of the community, and that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the community. And whereas, in making a determination of practical difficulty, the board may consider, excuse me, how substantial the variation is in relation to the requirement, and it is a substantial variance simply because it is actually completely in front of the vertical plane of the house. Number two, the potential effect of increased density on available municipal, county, and state facilities and services, of which there is no effect. And three, whether the variance will cause a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood, I will say none because it is barely visible from the road. Even in the wintertime, it's not that noticeable, and in the summer, it shouldn't be noticeable at all due to the foliage. And whether the difficulty can feasibly be mitigated by some other method, and whether the interests of justice will be served in granting the variance. And I would say that it would be hard to relocate the shed or in any other area due to the topographical problems. And 5, whether the interests of justice will be served in granting the variance. And whereas the board should grant the minimum relief necessary to allow reasonable use of the land, now therefore be it resolved that the board finds that the following special circumstances or conditions exist which apply to the applicant's land and building, but do not apply generally to the land and buildings in the neighborhood. And I will say that would be due to the fact that the applicant has substantial wetlands, which would restrict the placement of the building. And there are also other geographical problems such as the hill. It's hard to find a level spot there. And be it further resolved that the board finds that the above circumstances or conditions are such that the strict application of the provisions of Chapter 98 of the Code of the Town of Pleasant Valley results in practical difficulty and would deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of his land and building, and be it therefore resolved that for the reasons set forth above, the board determines that the granting of the variance is necessary for the reasonable use of the applicant's land and building, and that the variance as granted is the minimal variance that will accomplish the proposed use. And be it further resolved that the board finds that the above circumstances or conditions are such that the strict application of the provisions of Chapter 98 of the Code of the Town of Pleasant Valley results in practical difficulty and would deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of his land and buildings. And be it further resolved that the board determines that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning chapter of the Code of the Town of Pleasant Valley and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. And I put that in the form of a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And Mr. Cassidy, in favor? In
favor. Yep, in favor.
Okay.
Yes,
Ms. Muller?
sorry.
Yes, okay. All right. Okay, Ms. Smith? Okay.
In favor.
Favor, okay. So we have 7-0.
Thank you.
You got it. Get your building permit, I think, I'm not sure when she's in tomorrow. You might be better off calling ahead of time.
Okay.
So that, rather than come in.
I don't think she's in tomorrow.
Okay. All righty. Therefore, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We can leave? Thank you both for coming out.
absolutely, yeah. Not at all. You like that? Other people don't vote?
Did you sign it? Did you sign it?
Oh, no. You want me to sign it too? Your signature.
Night.
Night, yeah.